Science of Nevada and sponsored by NV Energy. And I'm your host, Paul Ira. We're in studio with Vanessa Portillo and Bryan Cabble from Garden Farms, and we're talking farming, urban farming, farming in your house, in the desert, in Las Vegas, and yes, you can do it. And they're telling us how to get this done. Went to break, we were talking about different things. We just had a discussion about ants. I got to pass this ant discussion on because this is very important. If you got ants, Vanessa, tell us again, how do you get rid of ants?
Okay. So I've tried so many different things for ants, and the solution that has worked best for me is what I do is I take 1.5 cups of water, I put that to boil, and then I stir in 1/2 cup of sugar. And then I also add in 1.5 tablespoons of borax. And then I stir that all up, I let it cool down, and then I'll put some cotton balls, in the garden. And I like to stick them under emitters.
For your irrigation system.
Yeah, exactly. So then when the water comes on, it helps to spread the solution. So this works well for black ants, which are attracted to sweets. So they'll come and drink the nectar from the cotton balls, and which has the borax in there, so they'll carry it back to their nest. That works really, really well. And the thing about ants too is that if you have ants, you most likely also have aphids, because it's the symbiotic relationship where the ants carry the aphids to the garden. Wow. So if you have one, you most likely have the other.
So you told us that a while back on one of the shows, and so I went out and I started watching them, and sure enough, these ants have got aphids on their back, like they're trucking, cows out to the pasture to make their herds. And I followed them up the tree, and sure enough, they're on a leaf. There's a whole herd of aphids.
Yeah.
And this is your fig tree, right, Paul?
Yeah.
It's your fig tree that's got the sweetness, yeah.
Well, this was on the pomegranate tree.
Oh, the pomegranate too, yeah.
The fig tree is just loaded with ants because they love I have great figs. I did right by my fig tree my first year, so thank you for that. And other bugs, anything else you want to talk about?
Also, you mentioned cayenne pepper is a good inhibitor for ants too.
I like to use cayenne pepper if they're inside your house. So you try to find, usually you can find the source of where they're coming in through if you just follow their line. And then you could just get some cayenne pepper and just stuff it in that hole or put it along wherever they're traveling. And I'll usually just get some duct tape and just cover up the hole. That works really well. Also, peppermint essential oil. If you put some peppermint essential oil, just kind of rub it into the wood or wherever they're traveling through, they don't like it, so they just it'll be like a barrier.
So do you use that full strength, the peppermint?
I do.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then like I said, that ant solution that I gave, that's for black ants. For red ants, they're meat eaters. So what I would do is I would substitute peanut butter for the sugar. Since they're meat eaters, that they're attracted to that fat. So I'll mix up peanut butter with a little, not as much water, just enough to kind of soften it up, enough to blend in the borax. And then same deal, you can kind of squeeze that onto, cotton balls or little cotton pads or something, and put that in a place where basically just the ants can get to it. Generally, dogs don't mess with the cotton balls or anything like that. I don't have a dog, so I don't know if it would be attracted. I mean, I'm sure they would probably be attracted to the peanut butter. But the sugar solution, generally animals don't mess with that. But yeah, so putting that in a place where just the ants can get to it.
Yeah.
Well, this is all important because, as I said earlier, I have the Save the Bees, Stop Using Pesticides stickers. We don't want to use pesticides. Bees are in a horrible condition right now. We've lost probably billions of bees worldwide, and for those of you who don't realize it, without bees, we have no veggies or fruits. So they pollinate just about everything. I did find out there's some wasp pollinations and bats moths, pollinate and moths, but bees are they're the big pollinators.
I think I've read it was 3 years. Without bees, we would survive for 3 years, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, save the bees. Don't use pesticides to kill your ants. And I know everybody's got cayenne pepper. Go get some peppermint oil, essential oils, and
That's great for all. Generally, all bugs are detest peppermint essential oil.
Yeah.
now
Oh,
we were
works on all
talking
bugs.
earlier that I had a lot of spiders around my house when I first moved in, but I started growing peppermint and I didn't have any more. And the
Yeah.
peppermint,
Oh.
be sure you put it either in a pot or in a place you don't care if it grows, because
It'll
it
take
will
over.
take over
Oh, yeah.
any
Wow.
space size you put it in. You could put it in an acre. If it's open, it will cover that whole acre.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, good.
I had it climb over my air conditioner from one raised bed to another raised bed. Yeah,
Wow.
it's prolific. So I
I
love
bet
it.
your house smelled great though if it grew
Yeah.
over.
That
the
smells
conditioner.
great,
exactly.
and not many bugs. So back to the mission of garden farms and working with your schools. We were talking about how the principals give you a call, you out get started, and you work with the students. Talk to us some more about that, and then we're going to move on to some upcoming events and what's going on with your organization.
Sure. So at the schools, we end up usually going weekly visits for about an hour, and they bring out a couple classes, staggered between. And basically, we're teaching the kids how to grow their own food with better than organic practices, pesticide free, all natural, delicious. And they end up just being little grazers in the garden. They'll just pick stuff out and munch on it. I had kids eating wheatgrass because I put a cover crop down in a garden one time. And I had remembered I'd put a bunch of straw down in my own backyard, but it ended up having quite a few little, wheat berries in it. So things were popping up, and I'm just like a dumb 2-year-old. I just go and grab it and shove it in my mouth to find out what it tastes like. And it was really sweet and delicious. I was like, I thought wheatgrass was supposed to be gross. So I was growing it at a cover crop, and we were talking about stuff, and the kids were doing an observation period where they were kind of looking around. And so I just bent down and grabbed some and started munching on it. And they were like, what are you eating? I'm like, oh, you guys aren't going to like this. They're like, no, what is it? And
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
can't have this.
I'm like, no. This is like adults hate
Television there.
eating this. This is supposed to be gross but really good for you. They're like, well, we want to try it. And I'm like, well, okay, go ahead. And so then for weeks, just everybody, like word spread throughout the school. The kids were just munching on wheatgrass like little maniacs.
Well, Jamba Juice, it costs a lot of money to get
Oh,
a
yeah.
wheatgrass
Yeah.
drink.
Shot.
It's
Yeah.
like a shot, and
Yeah.
they're like $6 or something.
Ooh,
And they go over there and they have pans of wheatgrass, and they cut it off and
Yeah.
then run it through a grinder and juice it out.
Huh.
So yeah, I would love to grow some wheatgrass. It's very, very good for you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you get like one of those indoor systems like you were showing us before the show, you could just have a little microgreens tray. Because when it first starts coming up, that's when it's really sweet and tasty.
Right.
But as it gets longer, it gets a little bit more fibrous, and the taste kind of falls off.
Tapers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to the students, and how do you get them engaged? I mean, they do a lot of the work in the garden, right?
They do. So, I mean, they are just little machines. They take to it like ducks to water. After, like, if we go to a school that has never had anything done before, by the first, like, growing season, after, like, the first 4 to 6 months, they're pros, basically. They're asking us these insanely complex and intricate questions. And, like, the teachers are still, like, not even remotely close to how far the students are. So I would put, like, our 4th and 5th graders up against any adult in the valley in a
Wow.
heartbeat.
Really?
Yeah, they are just instantly interested. It's just, I think there's just this visceral need for nature and natural things and
Yeah.
learning about the environment around you that is still really most of your being as a kid. You're always just fascinated and curious about things. As
Especially
adults-
growing up in the desert here, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
Yeah,
right,
well, you
there's
see
little
green,
oasis
right?
of-
And you're like, what's that?
yeah, right, yeah.
Well, as a human, you want to eat naturally. I mean, that's how we started. And so wanting to grow your own is a natural progression. So I love that part, that they get so much academics out of the garden farm stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk some more about growing your own when we come back to Shades of Green at KDWN.